Well, welcome Roberta Lea to the WOUB PBS channel. We're so happy that you are speaking with us and that you're coming to Ohio to perform with the Black Opry at Memorial Hall in Cincinnati on Thursday, October 20th. And I think we might be the first press outlet you've spoken to since you got some very exciting news that
Yeah.
we'll delve into shortly. But first, for our viewers, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm Roberta Lee. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. I am a songwriter and country neo-pop artist. I used to be a teacher, and I decided to make my pandemic pivot, as some people call it, to
I love the alliteration.
thank you. Thank you. To pursue my dream of being a full-time songwriter, a full-time artist. I'm a mom and a wife and a woman of many hats, and I'm looking forward to releasing my very first full record. So that's where I am.
All right. Well, very good. So going to that pandemic pivot that you mentioned, there's a passage of your website that I really love, and it speaks to what I've been addressing a lot with the various artists I've interviewed and keeping in mind our listening base,
Mhm.
since we are headquartered at Ohio University. So we have a lot of younger people, I think, overwhelmed by the headwinds of the time
Yeah,
and worried about their futures, and especially if it's in a creative realm.
yeah,
The music industry certainly does not have the best record on ageism, although I think the tides are turning.
yeah.
So something in your bio that I loved, I'll quote: "Pursuing music at 35 may seem like it's a late start for some, but for Roberta Lea, it's ideal. She's been slowly marinating and soaking in life."
Yeah.
And this reminds me of Rick Springfield. I interviewed him a few months ago, and I hadn't realized until I was gearing up to interview Rick that he was in his 30s when Jesse's Girl came out. And he spoke at length about how some could see his age as a barrier, but he saw it kind of similar to what you did, where he had refined his talents over time and experienced things, and it was really an asset rather than a liability. So can you talk some more about uh, what drove that pivot at 35? We mentioned the pandemic, of course, but and upon reflecting on that, how would you feel about if you had pursued this at, say, 19, and the songs that might have come out then, and versus now, and what's driving your success today?
Yeah, you make a great point when it comes to age being a liability in pursuit of music industry, entertainment industry. But here's the thing: age is a liability. Older age is a liability for the music industry. Okay, because as an older person, you're more experienced when it comes to contract, when it comes to negotiating, when it comes to business, when it comes to knowing exactly what you want, and you're not going to be coming to the table and taking anything. Young Pursuing music industry at a younger age is a liability to the artist. And so I'm going to speak to the youth, that your audience, right? When it comes to pursuing their dreams, it is a risk. And the reason why the industry absorbs younger people is because they don't know any better. It's easier to it's more of a benefit for them to work with people who don't know how to come to the table and read contracts and understand what they mean, right? And so it's this fine line. It's a very fine dance when it comes to when and how you pursue your dreams. And so it's for me, pursuing at 35, I was really inspired by the likes of Tina Turner, Anita Baker, Bill Withers, and a number of other artists who I learned recently started in their 30s. Tina Turner, we know, has a history before, but her big break was when she was 40. And
Right.
it's absolutely amazing to me.
And you figure that when she became a star,
Yeah,
she was in an abusive relationship that's been
Yes.
well publicized.
Yeah,
So
right. Absolutely. And so that was a bit outside of her control when she rose to the ranks as the queen of rock and roll, and stepping into the light of who we know her to be and who we celebrate her as. She was in her 40s, and she pursued music on her terms. And so I'm excited to pursue music on my terms. I feel like pursuing it in my 30s gives me more of a creative space. I really feel like I didn't have a grasp on life when I was 19. To get to your question, you know what I mean? What kind of songs would I have written at 19? I didn't have a lot of experience. I had never even had a serious relationship at that age. You know what I mean? I didn't enter into that realm until I was 24, so I was a quote unquote, I'm not going to use the term, it's tempting to use the term late bloomer, but I'm going to say on time bloomer. I was blooming on time for me.
I love that. And
Yes.
this is a term that I just used the other day with Mika Marks, who made her Grand Ole
Yeah.
Opry debut as she's about to turn 50.
Yes.
And
Yes.
her first record came out when she was 32, in the mid 2000s, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but there have been so many paradigm shifts since then.
Yeah.
I think we've been reckoning a lot with what was in vogue at that time, and maybe, some sinister motives that weren't discussed
Yeah.
so much then that
Yeah.
we're unpacking now.
Yeah.
So on that note, you're also a mother. This is something that I kind of tread lightly about because I'm aware of, all the societal biases when it comes to, men versus women, and the expectations of mothers versus fathers. And but you not only got to start in music at 35, but you also are a mother, and you have 2 children.
Yes.
Okay, and are you okay with relaying their ages just to picture
Yeah.
what stage of motherhood you're in?
Yeah. Yeah, because it makes a big difference. My daughter is 8, my son is 6 years old.
Wow.
So
Okay.
they're little ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some misconceptions that you've encountered about being a musician pursuing her dreams as a mother?
Well, the number one is that it's not doable, or that we're not allowed. It's almost as if I've had, some people will say things not very direct, but they'll slide them in there, and it's kind of like, well, you're a mother, you have to stay at home and take care of your children, and it's always one or the other. No one ever converses about, well, I can do both. I can be good at both. I can be a good mom and pursue my dreams, pursue my career. And there are lots of examples of that, but no one really talks about those examples because those examples are boring. There's no drama on those examples of women who have successfully had a career and raised a family. No one talks about that because it's not going to be a headlining conversation. They want to hear about the divorce. They want to hear about the kids that went off the cliff and are doing crazy things. That's what gets attention, right? And no one talks about the healthy family that's there. Gloria Estefan and her husband have done music together, and I think if I remember correctly, they either have one daughter or just the one daughter who does music herself, but they've made a successful career. They raised a family, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's not juicy enough for people
Right.
to hear, but it's there. And so I cling to those examples, and I know that it's possible. I know it's true.
And as you say that, I'm just thinking about how many men in popular music I can think of who are not only fathers, but have children with multiple women who are suing them for spousal support and things of that sort.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to expound upon how you can be met with some of those questions that kind of furrow your brow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. So going back to what you were talking about, and I think it was very important what you said about, going into the industry at a time when you were more grounded, and not as easily exploited. And I think about your history with the Black Opry Revue, because I know the founder, Holly G, and kind of how she approaches her artists and what her values are. And you're coming to Ohio for a Black Opry show. So can you talk about your history with the Black Opry Revue and Holly, and how that played into your launch as an artist on the rise?
Well, I mean, it's really such a beautiful story. I met Holly on Twitter via, we both follow Color Me Country, Reese Palmer. So shout out
Yep,
to Reese Palmer. She's
love Reese Palmer.
a cornerstone to this entire movement. And so having mutually following her, of course, you see each other's tweets, and I remember making a comment saying, like, I don't even know if Nashville would receive me. Like, I know that country is my lane. I feel at home in this genre, but the reason why I haven't fully explored it is because I just didn't know whether or not I would have community or acceptance in that space. And so she replied, being a champion and being a cheerleader, say, no, we're going to do this together. And shortly afterwards is when she started the Black Opry blog, the website. And so her and I connected right at the cusp of the birth of the Black Opry. And I said this in an interview the other day. I said, if I had a hard time deciding whether or not I was a country music artist, Holly decided for me. And she said, okay, you are now. And so, that day at Americana Fest happened last year in September, and it's history. The rest is history. Like
Yeah,
it was so natural. It was so it wasn't.
grassroots, it sounds like.
Yeah, it we didn't have to force it. It was just a moment, a movement in and of itself.
Well, and so I think again about, we were talking about if you had been a 19-year-old aspirational artist, this would have been before Twitter, and before you had these modes where you can do that sort of
Absolutely.
organic collaboration. And Holly's story as an individual, I think, is so remarkable, and how the Black Opry Revue took off as it did, and has totally surpassed her expectations.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure, as we cover more Black Opry Revue artists, that we'll be speaking with Holly at some point. But I also think about you mentioned Reese Palmer, who is so brilliant and so honorable in how she supports other artists, and she just did an interview with Vulture, her and Miko Marks, about how often they were sort of pitted against one another in the 2000s, that aforementioned era we talked about, where
Yeah.
a lot's changed,
Yeah.
because of how there's been such limited space for Black people in country, and then even more so for Black women.
Yeah.
And they took a very different route. Miko gave her flowers to Reese 15 years ago when she made her Opry debut, even though, Reese was a decade younger. That could have
Right.
provoked a lot of jealousy.
Yep.
And then fast forward to this year,
Yes.
Reese surprised Miko
Yes.
with her Grand Ole Opry debut that coincided with the Oak Ridge Boys and Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks.
Oh my
Sold
goodness.
out show. I mean,
Yeah.
just a memory of a debut at the Opry for the ages. Um,
Absolutely.
and so what I hear in this, is a culture of solidarity and support, and lifting one another up
Mhm.
rather than cutthroat competition,
Right.
which I think is
Absolutely.
often the narrative that's sown. Can you expound upon that a little bit, about how, you've maybe planted some seeds for others
Yes.
that down the line
Yeah.
bore fruit for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from my perspective, when we support one another, I often look at other people as an extension. I think it's important to look at other people as an extension of yourself. Right. And so I struggled with FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Everyone does. And I see, I'm here, I'm based in Norfolk. Everything's happening down in Nashville. So it's very easy to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not there. I'm not there. But when I see Reese Palmer, when I see Miko, when I see Holly there, when I see my Black Opry family doing their thing, it is it's important for people to understand if they're an extension of me, that means they're making room for me. So what Miko did for Reese, when Reese had her Grand Ole Opry debut, is Miko saw Reese Palmer as an extension of who I am, and she's going to reach places that I may not be able to get to yet. And next thing you know, you see a full circle moment, right? Where Reese Palmer introduces Miko's Grand Ole Opry debut. Now, if we take that scenario and we sow the seed of discord and jealousy and all those things, then who knows if Miko ever would have reached that point? But she left that door open. She left that love open for Reese, and it's a mutual. It's like they mutually feed each other. I remember seeing a little drawing, right? A little corny. It's a little corny, right? But it had people in a room sitting around a table, and there was a bowl, you know, in the middle with food in it, and they were all bound, but they had a really long spoon on their hands. So the spoon was long enough to reach the bowl, right? But if they tried to feed themselves, it was too long and too awkward to feed themselves. And that was a picture of like selfishness. But if you pick the food up with the spoon and fed someone else, they all sat there and fed each other, right? It works. And so it's a perfect illustration as to what's happening in the Color Me Country sphere, in the Black Opry sphere, is that we're nurturing one another, because we know, well, if I take care of you're going to turn around and take care of me. If I send you flowers on your Grand Ole Opry debut, then you're going to break the news to me for my Grand Ole Opry review. And it's a beautiful thing. It is.
Yes. Well, so speaking of which, you are going to be performing in Cincinnati at the Black Opry Revue show at Memorial Hall this Thursday, October 20th. And there will be other artists, some of whom I know very well and others I do not. So can you just run through the list of who's there and your thoughts on your histories with them and why you're excited to play with them?
Well, first off, we have Autumn Nicole, who is one of my faves. She's based in Nashville, and she is just an amazing songwriter and performer. And she has been so supportive of me, and just she would drop me lines of just encouragement and support. And we've really had an opportunity to connect. The last couple times we've done a Black Opry Revue before, so I'm excited to see her. We're going to be doing a panel actually on Wednesday together, so we're excited for that. Then there's Jet
Holden.
I love Jet. Fangirl Jet so bad. I'm so in love with his songwriting style, and his power. You know, like I'm so in love with his power behind his vocal artistry. And so I'm looking forward to seeing Jet there. I'm looking forward to seeing Tay, I believe, right?
Tay Lewis.
Yeah, yep. Tay Lewis is going to be there.
The unforgettable Tay Lewis.
He is Cuzzo. He is a ball of energy, and he's just so much fun. So Tay Lewis is going to be there, and we're going to be sharing the stage. So Kishana, I met her once at the Black Opry House back in April.
Okay.
It was. And so she has been in the movement, and she's been an inspiration just to watch from a distance. So it looks like herself and Ruby is going to be headlining the review. So that's that's a pretty packed deal. That's a packed deal.
Certainly. Yeah, and I'm going to single one out, Jet Holden. I'm going to single him out for a couple of reasons. One being, you did the Kelly Clarkson show with Holly and Jet Holden. And that, I think, was the first time I had seen Jet. And, of course, I was struck by his extraordinary song and his voice. But the other thing that I was really taken aback by was his countrified harness, because he is openly gay and he's really, open about it. And, you know, I just thought that was such an awesomely bold move. So when it comes to Jet Holden, who's going to be performing with you in Cincinnati at this show that we're plugging, can you talk a little bit about that appearance on the Kelly Clarkson show? Because that must have been a big deal for you. And then also, you know, I'm thinking about how, you know, he is openly gay, and so, you know, he belongs to a community that's marginalized in a way that you cannot relate to, and yet you stand with him, and in turn he stands with you, you know,
Absolutely.
as a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the bottom line, right? I remember him, you know, sharing how when he pursued music at first, the labels and the people in the higher places was like, look, you can be Black or you can be gay, but you can't be both. And the conversation that we're having around this is that, okay, just because, look, yes, I'm Black, but I'm good at country music. Yes, I'm gay, but I'm good at country music. Like, yes, but I am good at country. Focus on the country music. Like, why does it have, again, you know, just like we mentioned earlier with the mom thing? Like, why does it have to be one or the other, you know? And so I feel strongly about that when it comes to his story too. His writing is powerful. I think his songs would smash anybody who is playing on country radio right now, especially when it comes to the depth, and especially when it comes to three chords and the truth, if we're being honest. Scarecrow
Ooh,
is
that one, yeah. Hmm.
my absolute favorite. My absolute favorite. And it's so genius on so many different levels. And
Hmm.
so I'm so proud and so happy for him to have found a space where he can have both. He can fully express who he is. And yes, I am a really good country artist too. You know,
Yeah,
so it that speaks to what we created with the Black Opry, what Reese created with Color Me Country Music, and what others are doing. Is it country queer folk queer
you
folk?
know what, I think there's more than one,
I think
which is
there's a,
wonderful.
okay, yes. That's why these spaces are so important. Because to see a talent like Jets be dismissed just because he's gay, or just because he's, I can't stand for that. I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't know who would I fangirl? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, who
yeah.
would and so I was really grateful for the invitation to go on the Kelly Clarkson show with Jet. And I think and this is my personal assumption, that Jet and I didn't really have much of a career or anything going until the Black Opry. And so when it came to telling the story of the Black Opry, you know, it just made sense for it to be the two of us to discuss it, because it is, Black Opry is a cornerstone and the fuel that's really causing our careers to take off right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was an experience of a lifetime. Shout out to Kelly Clarkson. We love her.
Hell yeah.
She's amazing, and we hope to see her again, of course, in the future.
Well, and you know, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about how, you know, for people who cannot relate to, you know, the headwinds that Jet faces, being, you know, a gay Black man, you being a Black woman pursuing a career in country music, I was just thinking about how neither one of you are in Nashville. And we're not, when you went on the Kelly Clarkson show, you're in Norfolk, Virginia,
Yeah.
and he's actually in Benton, Illinois, which I thought he was kidding, because I had just gone to a music festival there where I saw, you know, how far removed it is from most major
Yeah.
cities.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people feel, you know, they cannot be taken seriously as an artist unless they're in New York, LA, maybe Nashville. And
Cool. Yeah.
so even if they cannot relate on, you know, the racial, you know, female, LGBTQ aspects of your stories and what you've had to overcome, they might be in an area that isn't, you know, well connected into the industry, you know, where they're not going to run into executives at Starbucks or something of, you know, that sort, or be able to access those in-person mixers that can make a difference for some people. So do you feel that this is something that it gives hope to people that maybe are not in one of those three cities and worry that they don't have a path to a career in music? I mean,
Absolutely.
you've maintained your residency in Norfolk, which
Yeah.
is extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah. Because people keep asking when I'm going to move to Nashville. I said it better be right. All the circumstances better be absolutely perfect before I pick up and move to Nashville. I love it there. I love it there. I do. But I have a family. I have more of a weight, and I can't uproot everything and everybody, right? Unless all the circumstances line up. But I feel like the pandemic has changed a lot for the better in this music industry, because we're having interviews, we're connecting, we're songwriting with people, we are doing all of these things remotely. And now the having to be in those spaces aren't it's not as crucial anymore. And I feel like if people learn how to play their cards right and learn how to truly make those connections online, that it could open doors. Twitter, I would have never imagined that Twitter was the world in which all of this would take.
You and I connected on Instagram.
We connected on Instagram, right? I mean, the list goes on as far as the number of opportunities and the wonderful people that I have met via social media. And so it's a double-edged sword, right? And people need to learn how to wield that sword, or you end up cutting yourself. Okay, so I think that if there's anyone who feels disconnected from a scene, right, then social media and getting online is a great way to start making those connections, and then building lasting relationships. Don't connect on social media and keep it surface level,
Right.
right? If you connect on, you and I are a perfect example. Okay,
We still haven't met in real life, by the way,
we still haven't met in real,
for just so our viewers know.
and it's gonna happen one day. But it's that build, right? We connected, genuinely connected. You sent me the sweetest birthday message that was just,
Ah,
oh, I still,
yeah. Okay, that's a great example because Isaiah's in Southern Illinois. I'm
right,
in Ohio, and also in Texas. You're in Virginia.
yeah,
And so you and I still haven't met in real life. We will in Cincinnati,
yes,
finally, at the Black Opry Revue
yeah,
show.
yes,
But we have managed to establish meaningful
absolutely,
discourse
yeah,
and bonding and of that sort, across multiple states. Because you're right, Instagram, I think, probably incentivizes that surface level, uh, sort of connection, and also, certainly sows those FOMO fears
yeah,
that you had mentioned.
yeah,
So, if you can make it a lot more meaningful, that can certainly be an asset. And you can, some of these places like, New York City, or Los Angeles, and even Nashville. I mean, the gentrification in Nashville is just astounding, where it's very expensive. And the more you have to spend on living there,
yeah,
the less you have
yeah,
to, say, record an album. And that's going to be my segue into the phenomenal news. Are we the first press out that you've been interviewed about this?
yes,
Yay!
yes,
Okay. Well, I do want to share then, I want to break the news on the interview front of the amazing milestone that you successfully met your Kickstarter goal to record your first full-length album, and you did it early.
oh my gosh,
Um, so can you talk about what you just did
oh my gosh.
and what it will do?
Wow. I have to say, what a roller coaster that was. I mean, the intensity, and a lot of people, and I'm so grateful for the people who reached out and said, "Hey, I had a Kickstarter too. This is how it goes. Yes, it is scary, but don't worry, you got it." Thank you, everyone who did that and shared their stories to encourage me. But it was a roller coaster. It took off extremely well. Um, and we hit 25% the first week. The second week, we hit 50%. So it took us 2 weeks to hit 50%. Okay. And by the time we hit 50% of the goal, we had 4 or 5 days left. And so my brain is calculating, I'm like, well, if it took us 2 weeks to get to 50%, I don't know if 4 or 5 days is going to cut it to get the last 50%. And so I spoke with my team and we brainstormed, and we tried to come up with different strategies and tried to pick up the pace. And it just so happens that this past Sunday, I woke up Sunday morning, we were at 50%, 9.5K. And I shared on my Instagram story, I said, I'm nervous, I'm excited, I'm hopeful, but I'm also uncertain. Like, I'm feeling all the things right now, And after that, I went and I wrote in my journal, and I kept my mind on the positive aspect. I'm like, I'm proud of myself for doing this, because this was a big risk. It was a big jump for me. And however this plays out, I'm proud of the connection that I made, the new community, the new friends, the supporters. I am very proud to see that. And I just left it at that. And Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning, late Sunday morning, Allison Russell starts to tweet and share my Kickstarter. And she is a great, beautiful friend. I had the chance to meet her at the Americana Fest first, and then we met again at the Black Opry Revue at Exit in December. And she's been a light to me ever since. And so she begins to share my Kickstarter, because she started via Kickstarter. That was how she got her first couple records out. So she's beginning to push it, and next thing you know, Brandi Carlile follows me on Instagram and posts my Kickstarter to her Instagram story.
Were you seated when you got this notification?
I was seated. I was sitting down.
That's why you're alive to tell the tale.
That's how I'm alive to tell the tale. But I did scream. I screamed. I screamed. How do you? I screamed. And today's days, I scrumped. Okay, so I scrumped so loud that my daughter asked me. I'm running upstairs crying, and my daughter was like, "Mommy, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Well, okay." So I was completely taken aback by her sharing my Kickstarter. And we raised 50% in 24 hours. We raised the last 50%. It just shot up like a rocket.
Yeah.
And I had the chance to meet the beautiful Bramley. Have you heard of the Bramley?
Maybe.
Okay. Bramley is Brandi Carlile's fan club. Brandi yes. and Brandi's family, the Bramley. I had the chance to meet them at Allison's concert back in June.
Okay.
Because Allison performed here in Norfolk. So I went to support that, and I saw one of the members wearing a Black Opry t-shirt, and I was like, hey, and so we kicked it off. We met, we connected, and they have been just absolutely amazing and supportive and beautiful group of people who love Brandi Carlile and have been showing love for me. As a matter of fact, they keep asking me about going to Girls Just Want a Weekend, and I would love to figure that out, because I would love to go. But all of this kind of just fit so perfectly. Like, I go to Allison's concert to support her. I meet the Bramley, and they're huge Brandi Carlile fans. And as far as I know, I'm nowhere near Brandi Carlile's register. I'm nowhere near her. Yeah, and so to see her posted on her Instagram story, and there were only 2 stories. There was the Grammy consideration for her and Allison's collaborative song, and then there was my face.
Wow.
And
okay, well, this takes us back to that metaphor about, the seeds that you planted for others down the line bore fruit for you as well.
Yeah. Because I mean, if we take it back, we look at Reese Palmer Miko, and he said, "Oh, jealousy could easily," right? There was the opportunity to open for Allison Russell. I believe that was the artist. I remember getting an email, and they say, "Hey, we have this big artist coming in June. Do you think your band?" And this was after I won Song of the Year with my band at the Veer Music Awards. And so when I put 2 and 2 together, I'm like, wow, I wonder if it's Allison. Oh my gosh, that would be so exciting. That would be awesome. I'd love to do that. And it didn't pan out. I was pretty bummed that it didn't pan out that way. For whatever reason, it was, Virginia Arts Festival, whatever call they made, and that's fine. But I said, well, I'm still gonna go show some support for my girl, because Allison's there, the sister strings are there. I said, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to go listen to good music, So I could have let a seed of FOMO and woe is me and crying about it, bother me to the point where I wouldn't have even shown up. But I said, well, she's still my friend. She's still an amazing artist. So I'm going to sit there and I'm going to fill in a seat and I'm going to hoot and holler from the crowd and support and sing along. And I just so happened to meet the Bramley in that space, and to see, again, like you said, the seeds of just supporting one another and just being present for one another. And it turns back around, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Well, this extraordinary donation from Brandi Carlile and also her promoting it. Brandi Carlile was in my brain recently because the interview right before yours that got published with me is Winona Judd. And I went to the final tour for the Judds in Ohio, where Brandi Carlile was filling in for Naomi Judd. And of course, she was incredible. And it was so funny because she not only was, the featured accompaniment, but she also was on the side of the stage for the songs. She wasn't singing on to wave and she was a fan too. But I'm thinking about how, she is a prominent, established person in the industry at this point. And, her support really made a big difference. And then I also think about, some pretty recent exciting news for you, and that your single Ghetto Country Streets was played regularly on CMT. And Leslie Fram is at the helm of CMT, and they've made a very bold commitment where 50% of the programming is for women. In terms of the artists that they play, and 50% for men. They actually do it equally, which is in stark contrast with terrestrial radio, unfortunately, in country. So can you just expound a little bit upon what Leslie Fram and her leadership at CMT has done for you, and the Next Women of Country initiative that she's done with the Change Agency, and takeaways from her doing that?
Absolutely. Well, Leslie Fram and CMT is positioning themselves as another cornerstone for me personally as an artist, and for many others, where they're creating a space that says you are welcome here, and it gives us a boldness to be. I did the music video. I simply reached out. I wasn't sure because I knew she was very busy, and I didn't know how the process really worked. And so I just reached out, and just the overwhelming excitement to have me. I'm just, it gave me confidence, right? And it gives me confidence and security that I can keep going. So for example, with the Kickstarter, right? I'm like, wow, if I have CMT that's willing to back me up, then I could put out an album, because now I have 3 communities. I have Color Me Country, I have Black Opry, I have CMT. I'm having these communities that are sharing and expressing, we want to support you. So when she does that, it's a booster. It's a huge booster to say, okay, I can do it then. All right, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to do it. Because before, as an independent artist, I would put out a single, you know what I mean? Just kind of put it up online, and you're like, I don't know who wants to hear this. I don't know who. It's a totally different experience to have a network of that caliber to say, yes, we want you, we will support you, just let me know and we're ready to go. And it's like, okay, well, now I'm ready to rock on a record. I'm ready, and now I know I can put in some blood, sweat, and tears into some good music and put it out, because now I have some foundational places like CMT who are committed to supporting women in country music. You are committed to putting my face on your network. You're committed to sharing that space equally with men, to give that exposure to support that art. Now I know that, and now I can pursue this next project with a lot more confidence, and that makes a big difference.
Right. And I'm thinking about how, it's to their benefit too, as
Absolutely.
a corporation, CMT being owned by Paramount, and that the inclusion of you has inspired so many people who did not think that they really had a space. What I find is important to point out is that there's incentive for companies like CMT to do this as well, because I can personally vouch for how many people, consumers, that would bring revenue and viewership and all that other stuff to a network like CMT, who never would have thought that country music had a space for them.
Right.
And I think of, for example, Isaiah Cunningham, who Black Opry Revue is in your ranks now.
Yeah.
And when we saw that news of CMT putting Ghetto Country Streets in rotation, it really took us aback as far as realizing how CMT had a lot more variety that interests us. And therefore, I'm watching CMT in a way that I had not previously.
Yeah.
He is now going in that direction of the genre altogether. And so I think that's an important takeaway for these companies where, in the upper ranks, maybe they don't see these perspectives that, yes, of course, it's to benefit some artists, but it's really an economic incentive for you as well to diversify who you're bringing on. And what I just find very striking is you're not even asking for outsized representation. Women just want the same share as men.
Exactly. It's not like, that's what's interesting, is that it's not like people are asking for much, and it's not like people have to do a lot either. When I look at, for example, Leslie Fram and they put, Ghetto Country Streets. It's a 24-hour premiere. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm asking to take up your 365 days. Like, it's 24 hours and then and boom. It's Maren Morris just shouting out Reese Palmer and Brittany Spencer that has completely changed Brittany Spencer's life. 10 seconds. Wow. 10 seconds. It's Brandy Carlisle posting my Kickstarter on her story. It doesn't even have to be much that people do to support other artists. It's prime example that it doesn't even take a lot.
That's right. I mean, and I look at, Mika Marks just did her Grand Ole Opry debut, and the Oak Ridge Boys, who are very well established, they're in the Country Music Hall of Fame, they're Grand Ole Opry members. They've been around a long time, all older white guys, but they have, posted really sweet things, to congratulate her and to welcome her on board at the Opry. And that, I can vouch, has also interested new consumers of the Oak Ridge Boys, who might want to go to one of their shows and buy their records now. So I hope that, what Leslie is doing at the helm of CMT, and I shouldn't say I hope, I know that what Leslie is doing at the helm of CMT is making a real difference in all the ways. The artists appreciate it. It certainly bodes well for the network and the parent company. And we've kind of come full circle to how support of others can lead to more support for your own self.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Well, I think we've reached the end. We are so grateful that you took the time to, one, speak with us on the WOUB PBS channel, and also to make us the first press outlet to discuss the exciting news of your Kickstarter goal being met early. We are really excited for the Black Opry Revue show at the Memorial Hall in Cincinnati on Thursday, October 20th, with a lot of great other artists that you've mentioned. And I guess to send us off, Roberta, have you been to Ohio before? And what are you looking forward to about coming to Cincinnati?
Okay, so I have been to Ohio a long time ago. So I'm really excited to revisit that space in a whole new context in my life. And I'm excited to touch base with folks who have been supporting from Cincinnati, from Ohio, from up north. I have friends who have friends and
Cleveland.
family there, right? And so I'm just excited to be in that space and reintroduce myself.
Wonderful. Well, the feeling is mutual. And thank you so much once again. And we'll see you on Thursday.
I'll see you guys on Thursday.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching the WOUB PBS YouTube channel. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to catch a variety of great content in the future.